Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Kobe Fletcher, and I am Superintendent of Schools for the Escanaba Area Public Schools, and I am here to respond to a few questions. Last week, we put out a form that parents could use in order to submit their questions regarding the start of the school year, or really anything that they might have had questions about. And we anticipated, as those questions came in, just taking them and answering them. And all the questions really kind of came in at once. And so what I've done is I have taken all the questions that we got. There were probably about 500, and similar questions I put together, so you may not see the exact phrasing of your question, but hopefully you can see where we're responding to it. And collected those all up and have put them in a slideshow, and will respond to them as I go. Some of you had very school specific questions or questions that were really specific to your child. Where that was the case, I forwarded those questions to the school and I asked the school to respond to those. So you should have received calls answering those questions. But here we go. The very first part that we're going to do are questions that relate to the start of the school year and other general questions that people had. So I'm going to take these questions one at a time and do what I can to answer them for you. The first is, are kids really going back to school this year? And the answer to that question is yes, with a caveat. And that caveat is that it may not look exactly the same throughout the entire school year, depending upon whether or not we get shut down. So we're in phase 5. We anticipate kids will be here face to face. We're planning on that. But if the school does get shut down, as you can see in the next question, it asks about that, then we will have to shift to a different type of learning. Will school be fully online if we have to do that? The answer to that is yes, mostly. That is to say that sometimes there are times or situations when it's most appropriate for a student to work on a paper pencil type task. And where that's the case, then we're going to provide education that way. But I think it's safe to say that for the most part, if we are closed to face-to-face instruction, the instruction will be primarily online. And then I had some questions about what we plan to do if both parents work, or if somebody is a single parent and they have to work. And we're sensitive to that. I know that when we closed in March of the last school year, it made things really hard for some of our parents who aren't able to be at home with their children during what would normally be the school day. Unfortunately, if we're told to close, we really don't have much choice other than to close. What I can say is we'll do what we can to make instruction available in a format that would allow parents to work with their kids when they're done with work as much as possible. Really, we'll do what we can to support you there. It's important for us to do that. But I do recognize that that poses some serious difficulty for our families when schools shut down. So the next question, many schools haven't been able to open successfully, and so will we be forced to send our kids to school for face-to-face instruction when we don't feel like it's safe to do so? Nobody has been watching other schools reopen more than superintendents in Michigan, I think. And when we look at our colleagues down south, we can see that a lot of them had challenges, in particular when they did not take many precautions as schools opened. Well, the answer to the question that was asked is no, you don't have to send your kids to school for face-to-face instruction if you don't feel like it's safe, which is the primary motivation for us to provide different instructional options to parents, and I'll speak more about that a little bit later. That does answer the next question. If we don't feel safe sending kids into school buildings, do we have options? Again, yes, and we'll talk about that shortly. I got asked if I feel like it's safe to send kids to school right now, and then I also got asked if the health department thinks it's safe. Being in phase 5, we don't have just a ton of say in whether or not schools reopen for face-to-face learning. We're allowed to do so, and we know we have many parents who do want their kids back for face-to-face learning, and so it's an option that we're going to be providing. Do I feel like it's safe? The best way I can answer that question is to say that I have a child in the schools, and I'll be sending my child back for face-to-face instruction. So I feel like it's safe. That doesn't mean everybody else has to feel like it's safe. I understand that, but I want to make sure I answer the question that was asked. Does the health department think it's safe? Well, again, I don't speak for the health department, so I don't want to answer for them. I know the health department has been great in working with us to provide a good environment, but that's a question, quite honestly, that they would have to answer themselves. And then, how do I find out information about the start of school? There are multiple different ways to do that. Our website is a good first stop. Social media is a good stop. I often send out power announcements when we have important updates. And then if you have school-specific questions, it's always a good idea to reach out to the school. I know our campuses are sending out letters to families that contain a lot of information. Keep an eye out for those. But if you have a question that hasn't been answered, check the website, or if it is specific to a school, then by all means drop them an email or give them a call, and we will do our best to respond. When is the start of school? We're going to be starting school August 31st, and at our most recent board meeting, the school board did adopt a full year calendar. That is available on our website, and I believe it has also been posted to social media. You can check that out by visiting either of those sources. What are the school hours? We don't see any changes in school hours, so they should be the same as they were last year. That also is updated on our website and will be included in information that schools are sending out. Is there a school supply list? Yes, there is. Those have also been updated and are available on our website. How are schools doing drop-off and pickup? Those are what we would call unstructured times of the day, so we're going to be doing our best to provide structure there. Different campuses will do drop-off and pickup different ways just because they are situated differently. So you will also be receiving this information from schools. I got questions about things like social distancing. And again, these are unstructured times, but we're going to do our best to do drop-off and pickup in a way that will keep kids safe and healthy. And then how will breakfast and lunches work? These are important parts of the day. Will kids be eating in the cafeteria? The answer to that is yes, most of the time. Our school cafeterias are also different depending on the school you're at. Some are larger, some are smaller. For the most part, kids will be eating in the cafeteria. There may be times when we have to do a rotation, so some kids for a couple of days may get their lunch and eat in the classroom and then spend the next couple of weeks eating in the cafeteria. But it will be time mostly spent in the cafeteria. For breakfast, those students that are used to having breakfast in the classroom, we will continue to do that. How will kids be social distanced? We'll be marking off 6 feet of space in lines and also at tables to keep kids socially distant while they're eating, since they won't be wearing masks and they'll be in cafeterias all together. That's going to be new for us. It's going to be new for kids, and so we're going to watch how it goes and improve it where we need to. And I also want to make special mention of another thing that the board adopted at its Monday meeting, and that was universal free breakfast and lunch BK-12. If you had students in kindergarten through 8th grade last year, you already know about the universal free breakfast and lunch. Our numbers this year support BK-12, universal free breakfast and lunch. The state worked very closely with us on that because they like the program that we run. So I am happy to announce that no child in the district will pay anything at all for breakfast and lunch. That's pretty much a done deal. So we have that to look forward to. It's an important service for us to provide as a district. I know this is a time when a lot of families are hurting, and just in general, if you have multiple kids in school, lunches can get a little bit expensive. I did get some emails from folks who said that breakfast and lunch isn't free, the taxpayer is paying for it. And I recognize that. What we mean when we say free breakfast and lunch is that it's free to the child. And the child is our priority, and if you're a taxpayer, I assume that children are a high priority for you as well, so this is a good service to provide. So, will kids move from classroom to classroom? The answer to that is yes. It may look a little bit different. We may stagger sometimes so that we don't have everybody in the hallway all at once. That's going to be dependent on campus and grade level. But, this year is going to be different in a lot of ways. We also want to have some normalcy for our kids, and so we don't want to change things too much, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So if kids have been used to moving from classroom to classroom for things like music and art at the elementary levels, or from classroom to classroom to different classes at the secondary level, I see that continuing to go on. We may just be taking some extra precautions as we do so, like staggering the number of kids in the hallways, wearing masks, that kind of thing. Will students with IEPs still be able to go to special education classrooms to get help? Yes, absolutely. We definitely still want to provide that service. How is schedule pickup working? It should be working like it was in the past, with the exception that because we're trying to provide so many options to parents, you may pick up a schedule that might not reflect, or receive in the mail a schedule that might not reflect the learning option that you picked for your child. And that's because we try to set those schedules as early as we possibly can, so most of that was done before we developed the options, really towards the end of the year last year, the school year. And so we still have some changes to make. So don't fret if you have picked up a schedule and it doesn't look exactly like you want it to look like. Be in contact with your school if they haven't been in contact with you, and we will get that straightened out for you. Are we doing open houses? Well, unfortunately, some of the executive orders have impacted our ability to do open houses. And, clearly, if we're working hard to keep schools clean and minimize the number of people that are in them at one time, open houses right now are not something that would make a lot of sense for us, as much as we would like to do them. I like being able to jet from open house to open house as we get towards the beginning of the school year, because I get to see people and kids, and the kids are excited to get back into school, which I'm sure many of us really are right now, given that we spent the last several months of the last school year out of school. But unfortunately, open houses are not going to be something that we will be able to hold. A lot of our schools are doing virtual open houses. I know that's not the same. If a parent really does want to look at the school and see the classroom, normally what we have been doing is when we are contacted by those folks, we'll just arrange an individual tour. So if you have a child, for example, that's new to the district and you want them to be able to walk through the school before the school year starts, reach out to the school and we can set those up for you. We want kids who, and parents as well, who want to see the classrooms or the school building to be able to do that. We just may not be able to have everybody there in mass. How will we help kids who have anxiety starting the school year? A lot of kids do have anxiety when they start the school year, in particular with transition years. And we know this is going to be a transition year for a lot of our students because we have reconfigured grades. Well, we're very attuned to kids that have anxiety when they start the school year. Our staff know how to pick up on that. And when I say staff, I don't just mean teachers. One of the things that we've worked really hard to do in Escanaba is to provide social, emotional, and mental health support for our kids. So, for example, we're the only district in the area who staffs each of our campuses with a social worker. And those social workers do much more than the traditional social work people may expect them to do. So we have a lot of people like that in the district who can help children who have anxiety, and that's in addition to the teachers, in addition to the assistants, in addition to the aides. Everybody really is there to make sure that these children get off to a good start for the school year. That's our main priority, especially when we first get into school. So we'll do everything we can to help kids who have anxiety starting the school year. And if you as a parent feel like there are some things that we need to be watching out for, then by all means, reach out to the teacher, reach out to the school, and we'll do that. anything we can to get the kids off to a good start, we're happy to do. So will students still interact normally? Will there be major changes to the school year? I think some of the changes that we're going to make will be major to some kids and they won't to others. It's going to depend on the child. I mean, there's no doubt that there are going to be changes simply because of the planning that we have been required to do as a school to start the year with COVID and things like that still going on. We do, however, want to keep things as normal as we possibly can. I've said several times on the radio and on TV that our intention is to run a school. I don't want to run a prison, I don't want to run a sanatorium, and I don't want to run a hospital. I want kids to be healthy and safe, and I want the environment to be clean. But I still want kids able to be kids. So will they still have PE, recess, art, music, etc.? Absolutely. Recess will be cohorted as much as possible, so we'll try to keep classrooms together while they're out there. Kids won't have to mask up while they're at recess, so recess, for the most part, will be normal. That's important, I guess, in the development of a child. That's where they learn a lot of the skills required to get along with other kids, to work together. They don't always realize they're doing that, but recess provides that opportunity, and we don't want to take that away. And kids need breaks, let's just be honest. Will there still be things like band, sports, and cheerleading? Again, yes. I had some questions about that. If kids are masking up, why are we having band? Why are kids, in sports where they may be in contact with each other? Why are some of those things still going on? Well, what we found is there's still some precautions that we can take in those areas, and our staff in those areas have actually been going to training to learn a little bit about what those are. But at the same time, again, we realize that that's really important in the development of a lot of our students, and we have students who come to school because those are their favorite things, and we don't want to take their ability to participate in those things away if they still want to. So we're going to offer it. We're going to offer those things with, what we would consider to be necessary precautions. But we want to give parents and kids the choice to participate. If they choose not to participate in those things, that's all right. We get that. But we want them to be able to choose to do so if they want to. And then finally, will all kids be set up with Google Classroom or something similar in case school has to close? And the answer to that is yes. Last school year, when school closed, we had kind of a grace period there, I guess, that allowed us to get ready. And now that we have done it once, I don't see us having a grace period like that if we do have to go online again because school closed. And so we need to be ready to essentially flip the switch, and as I said earlier, up our game if we have to go fully online. So kids will be set up with what they need to be set up with in order to continue their education if school has to close. And then I believe this is the last slide for this portion. Are we still providing busing? The answer to that is yes. We do strongly encourage parents to provide their own transportation, just because busing is one of those environments where we can't guarantee social distance between kids. But we do still plan on providing busing just like we did before. If your kid was bused in the past, then they can be bused this year. We're not going to diminish our level of service with busing. So the answer to that question is yes. How do I sign my child up for busing? You can do a couple of things. The number for our transportation office is on our website. You can call them directly, or you can call your child's school, and they also have the necessary paperwork there to get your child signed up for busing. When will I find out my child's pickup and drop-off times? I believe those letters are being mailed out this week and next week. We mail them out in batches, but everybody should have those. If you don't have those by, let's just say Thursday of next week, then by all means, again, pick up the phone and call the transportation office, and they'll be able to help you out. Will children on buses be socially distanced? Well, the answer to that is to the extent possible. If we don't have a lot of ridership, then we will be able to socially distance children, and we'll expect that to happen. If we have a lot of kids that need to be bused, again, that's a service we have to provide, so social distancing won't be possible, and we'll have to take other precautions like disinfecting buses before and after runs, having kids wear masks, providing sanitizer, and things like that on the bus. Will there be assistance on buses? And I do have a little note down there because one of the things that we did last year is we installed multiple cameras on each of our buses. Not as a gotcha type thing. It's just good for us to have that record. Sometimes we get questions about things that might have gotten lost on buses, and that helps us. But we do have cameras on all the buses. For us, we expect our bus drivers to keep order on the bus, but above all else, we expect our bus drivers to be safe drivers, which means they spend the bulk of their time with their eyes on the road. And so we don't want them to be enforcers. I'd love to be able to put an assistant on each bus, but that's just not a reality at the time, or for now anyway, unless the state finds a magic source of funding, and they do seem to be struggling with that. But we'll do the best we can to manage the buses and provide a good, safe environment for kids. Will the YMCA still offer before and after school programs, and will there still be busing to these programs? Again, things are going to happen really like they did last year. So if you had a child that participated in the before and after school programs and they were dropped off or picked up there, we'll continue to do that. We did just approve our agreement with the YMCA to offer that programming, and so I believe that will still be ongoing. And I think we are to the end of this once again. About 20 minutes in, it looks like. If you need clarification, or if you feel like there's a new question that's popped into your head, or there's something that I didn't thoroughly answer, again, check our website. We do have a lot of information on the website, but also if you need to, reach out to your child's school and they will do their best to answer questions that you have. And so, on to the next.